Welcome back to the Housing Advocate, the podcast of the Southern Utah Home Builders Association. I'm your host, Stacy Young, and today I'm really excited to be joined by Mayor Jimmie Hughes of St. George City.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you coming and doing this, and welcome to the new role, not new to St. George City politics by any means, but new to this role.
Yeah, and it's been super fun so far.
Yeah, we were just talking about that before we started rolling, and it's good to hear that you're having fun. That's what we want to hear. That you're enjoying the new role.
No, it has been good. Everybody's been super nice to me and pleasant, and we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, you were saying you're not getting into your day job, so to speak, a whole lot. They're keeping you pretty busy, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that still ask me that question. They say, "Well, you still have a regular job? I mean, it's not a full-time thing." And I said, "Well, I might put full-time in there, but it's still considered a part-time job." So I try to spend a little time at my work, and I enjoy my other job too. That brings me a lot of satisfaction. So, but not spending a whole lot of time there lately. So.
Yeah, not a whole lot of truth in advertising in terms of that part of it, right? They keep you busy down there. Right. And we were also kind of talking about things are kind of evolving with the city in terms of just it's a really dynamic time across the entire country, the economy, in terms of kind of where we're at post COVID. Maybe kind of let you talk to our audience about where we're at with that a little bit.
Right. So the whole, I was on the council before, like you mentioned, and we, coming into that whole COVID thing, there was a little bit of a hesitation. I remember our budget meetings where, hey, we're going to pull back. We canceled some projects, including the City Hall project, and kind of backed off a little bit, not knowing what was going to happen. There was some angst that maybe we were going to head into an economic decline. Who knows what's going to happen? Well, pleasantly, things were different. We actually boomed. I mean, the sales tax revenue, everything just seemed to boom, especially here in Southern Utah, and our growth just took off, which changed the dynamics of a lot of things. In fact, I was, not to get too far in the weeds, but I was just reading some of the stuff from the Census Bureau. They kind of do a mid 10-year report, and we, St. George metropolitan area, made the list of the top 10 as far as growth in percentage. And interestingly enough about that, we are the only city in the West that made that. Now, as far as percentage, that is. So a 2.5% growth rate that we had in 2025.
So we're still growing.
Still growing. And that presents some interesting dynamics for us as a city. Like you're mentioning, we're kind of changing a little bit as we grow. It feels like we've kind of hit that mark where we've grown up a little bit, where we're not just small town anymore. And maybe we've been there for a while, but it just feels like there's a different, a different feel of the city as far as the size. That we're kind of big city. So.
Yeah, it's feeling that. It does feel that way, and it does feel quite different from, like you said, even you trace it back to COVID to now, and yeah, I remember that quite well. It wasn't really that long ago that we were all in kind of February, March of 2020, kind of braced for the worst, and had this short dip, and then all of a sudden everything just came roaring at us. And we certainly felt that in the housing sector. We couldn't get garage doors or anything else. We couldn't keep up with.
I remember talking to someone, one of my builder friends, that was trying to find some baseboard to finish a house. I couldn't find baseboard.
Yeah.
Drove to California and picked up their own baseboard that had come in from somewhere, or the last they could find. So interesting.
Yeah, and like you said, it's persisted. I think we've got a lot of sort of refugees, so to speak, living here now that have set up permanent homesteads here, and it's changed the dynamics of our local community.
The other thing about that is it kind of changed a lot of things about just maybe our culture in general, where a lot of people did come here during that. They found out that they didn't have to be at work all the time. Everything shut down, and you say, "Oh, hey, I can survive without work, or I can work anywhere." And so let's be where we want to be. So we have a lot of that, people that have moved here that can live anywhere and have chosen here. And so that whole dynamic has changed. Some may say for the better, some may say for the worst. I mean, I tend to be a little more positive. I think everything's heading in the right direction.
Yeah. I heard a few stories of people that were here on vacation, schools and work where they were from shut down, and they never went back except to pack a U-Haul.
Right.
And so, yeah, to your point, there anecdotally that happened, and then all sorts of stories along that
Sure.
spectrum, and yeah, I think it is a mixed bag, but the truth of the matter is, no matter kind of how we feel about it, it's happening, and so
Right.
one of your jobs is to kind of help us navigate that the best we can as a community, right?
Yeah. Worry about the things that we can work on, and then the things that we can't, we have to just deal with those. So right on. So
yeah, and I think kind of at the point of that spear, one of the things you're right in the middle of right now is the budget process as a city, and that kind of is where all the rubber meets the road. And we were talking about that just a little bit as well before we started rolling, and so maybe talk about that, kind of how that looks this year, and either from a big picture, or maybe pull out one or two particular highlights or challenges that you're running into this year.
Yeah. So our budget year, we adopt our budget every year in June. So we kind of run from June to June as far as our budget year. So we start right at the first of the year. We're usually already starting to talk budget for the following year. And we do have a kind of a process that we go through there. It takes about that 6 months to get it done. And it's always really good when you just say, hey, there's, we have all this revenue coming in, and here are the needs, and we just make out a budget, and everything works out great. Now, unlike a lot of other, when you start getting at the federal level, at the city level, we have to balance the budget. There's no way to borrow. We can't just say, hey, we need more money and go, just find it or print it. Yeah. So we have to budget that. So, it starts early with the department heads bringing in their requests, and then the budget team kind of plugging in the numbers of where we expect our revenue to come in from, things like property tax and sales tax, and, our impact fees and things like that. And here we are right in the middle of that, where we've just finished we're actually on our second or third all-day meeting. We usually have these meetings that go all day, where we hear from all the department heads, and then start whittling that down to what we can do and what we can't do. So this last week's meeting was really, here's where the numbers were projected to come in, here's the request, and oddly enough, here's the gap, which generally they're usually, there's always more requests than what we have funding for.
Sure.
And then how do we bridge that gap? What do we eliminate from things like, taking care of our employees with raises, cost of living increases, things like that we look at. So this year we're kind of a little bit more lean than we have seen in the past years. I mean, from 2021, 22, everything seems to have increased as far as our sales tax revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we're seeing a little bit more of while we still have a little bit of growth in those things, not as much.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you kind of get used to that, and then all of a sudden you don't have as much. We got to make some adjustments. And so we're working through that now. So our next meeting will be, well, here's kind of the recommended budget based on what the council's priorities are and what money we have. And then we have to make the really hard decisions of what things do you cut, and say the final budget, is not going to include those things that maybe the police department requested, that maybe the parks department requested, that we may not be able to do. So we're still going to be okay this year, but what worries me, just from from looking down the road into the future, because I always like to look into the future, is our trend of where inflation is. Simply inflation, not that we're trying to expand government, but that we want to maintain the current level of service. You can't buy the same thing for the same amount of money. So how do we bridge that gap?
Right.
All things staying equal, you can't pay for the same employee with the same amount of money. And so how do we do that? So that's kind of the challenges that we come up with.
Yeah.
And so, and no one likes to talk about that, that dirty tax word. So we try not to bring that up. So we don't talk about that. And then we kind of go from there. So.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I can see how that becomes a tricky vice over time. The kind of that inflationary element of it, and trying to keep up with that. And then I know also over time you've got, just like a household, you've got parts of the city that are you get to sort of 20-year-old home or 25-year-old home, and now your HVAC and so forth.
Right.
Some of the systems start to need replaced, and so you've got parts of town that are getting to that stage as well. And so so I guess what I'm trying to get at, I'm not sure quite how to ask the question, but are there particular departments or areas that are maybe more of a concern or less, or is it broader?
Sure. So we kind of tackled earlier, 4 or 5 years ago, the whole public safety thing, and we've made some great progress there. What we spent a lot of time in this last meeting on was some of our infrastructure, mainly roads. So with all this growth, you'll hear people talk about the increase in traffic, and believe me, it has increased.
Sure.
Still not like, for those of us who've had the opportunity to live in places like Salt Lake and Los Angeles, we're still way down the road from that kind of traffic, but there's some traffic issues that we have. So, and we have some roads that have some need of help. So we spent a lot of time in our meeting talking about maintaining our pavement. In a nutshell, the longer we go without doing some maintenance, the sooner that road needs replaced. So our public works director was showing us how we can extend the life of our pavement, our roads, basically, indefinitely if we have a good maintenance program. Now, we do have a maintenance program currently, but we're talking a smaller, maybe $2 million a year, where we're going out and doing stuff like chip seal or some of the HA5, I think it's called, and doing some of that maintenance that helps keep the water from getting down below the pavement and keeps the roads good. We spent a lot of time talking about how if we don't get better at maintaining more of that, we're going to have to replace more of that road in the future, which is a much higher price tag. And it was a really good presentation on, made us all road experts basically, and how we can maintain, and really it's maintaining that pavement, indefinitely. There's not, the normal life cycle we learned was 20 years. But if we keep maintaining that with some of those treatments, that they can go on again indefinitely. So then the next part of that presentation was, okay, if we increase that, then we have to pay for that. And really, so just for the fun numbers, we're spending about $2.5 million now. The public works director said to do it properly, to keep all the roads, because we have an extraordinary high amount of road miles in for a city of our size, just because we're kind of spread out. To maintain them properly at the minimum level, we would need to be spending more on the tune of $7 million more, so about $9 million in total. And so then the fun question is, how do you do that?
How do you get there? Yeah.
Where do you find that money?
Yeah.
Where do you find that money? And is it a priority to our citizens? So that's another part of the discussion. Then where do we go from there? So there's some avenues that we can do that you might hear things come up, like a transportation utility fund, which is TOUGH is the acronym, which the city has an opportunity to charge every utility customer a fee to help pay for those things. So that came up as part of the discussion. Whether that'll happen or not will be up to the council. But that was kind of the big focus, is we're heading for, some pretty hefty road replacement bills if we don't keep maintaining our pavement. So
yeah, that's a great technical, just objective analysis of it, though, and it goes to, like, I will definitely pay a huge compliment to the professionalism of your staff. As you know, I've developed in this town for a while now, and had the pleasure and privilege of working with that gang over there across all the departments, and it's a really great group. All the department heads and their staff are fantastic. There's no place I'd rather develop.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
They're fantastic, and so you feel confident that you're getting good advice, and that they're teeing you up with good information. Maybe to pivot to some little more fun topics. You recently kind of went through some of the highlights in terms of kind of a state of the city bullet points. What are some of the exciting bigger projects, and kind of from an economic development and some of the fun stuff that's coming down there?
Yeah. So we just recently did the state of the city, and there's a lot of things always going on in St. George, but some of the things that we are really excited about, obviously, we'll start over here at Tech Ridge. We're really excited about some of the stuff that we've been hoping to happen there that's starting to take shape. Some of the housing projects and maybe not a really big economic thing, but the scar on the Black Hill that's been an eyesore for a lot of people. We finally made some progress. We actually had the eyebrow fixed, the little portion that come out, and we're actually in the middle of working on getting the big scar fixed. Now that will be in tandem with some housing development. That's some of those homes can help cover that scar. And so we made a deal with the developer to be able to have some of that housing put in there and then fix the scar. And I think it's going to be really cool. Moving down along, then obviously our really big project is the airport coming up. The airport tower was something that we're showing is going to be completed at the end of this year. And then we're going to pivot right into remodeling of the terminal and adding some some jet bridges there. Yeah. That's about $100 million project.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I think I saw some renderings of that too. Looks like, that's exciting.
For a city of our size, we're super blessed to have a facility like we have now, constantly exceeding passenger numbers. It's always full. If you ever fly out of there in the morning, it's usually packed in the one little area we have to gather. We'll have an airport with, I believe the total number when we get done with that remodel will be 7 gates, so that we'll be able to have in there at the airport. So we're super excited about that. Talked a lot about all of our parks and recreation projects. The voters in St. George have been very generous on the RAP tax and some of that stuff. So we've been able to be able to remodel some of our parks and do some stuff there. And build some new parks. Our trail system is world class. I mean, so a lot of fun stuff going on. No Trader Joe's yet, so I've been having a lot of fun with that. But just for point of clarification, because there's always rumors out there, we fully welcome Trader Joe's. There's been no discussions with them. There's been nothing that says that they can't come here. They're more than welcome. So just know that. I'm trying to think of what else I'm missing that we've been talking about.
Backing up to the airport, did I hear that we're about to get a nonstop flight to Chicago? Was that
so that's going to be seasonal? I believe it starts in May. So there's like a 6-month window where they're going to have that seasonal flight to Chicago.
Right on.
And we're working on some other airlines as well. That the reality is they all want certain time slots, and to be able to hit your connecting flights, you generally have to fly out pretty early in the morning. And so if we are packed already at our current, there's no place to pull in another plane. We can't do that. Now, you might go there later in the afternoon and the place is a little empty, right? It's because those flights are going to, either they have to leave early in the morning or they're coming in the evening. And so we've got to work with some of that. But yes, the Chicago flight is a seasonal flight that I believe starts in May and then goes through, I want to say September. I don't quote me on that, but I know it's a seasonal. There's only going to be 6 months out of the year, and then it goes away, and then it comes back for that period. So
no Bears, nothing into the Bears season.
Yeah. So I know there's been a lot of talks with Alaska Airlines as well, which opens up the Pacific Northwest, which would be very cool. Yeah, which would be very cool. And then we're always open to other airlines that want to come in. I've been talking to some other people that looking at maybe some of those bigger airlines, like similar to what Provo has. Again, it all comes down to what they can fill and what they feel like they can. We're so close to Las Vegas that it might be a little hard for some of that to be competitive. Yeah, I mean, because we think about it and we think, we got to drive clear to Vegas, but really that's not that far to have a major hub like that. Yeah. So but we want you to fly out of St. George. Yeah, fly out of St. George.
Yeah, and it's gotten to where, I rarely fly out of Vegas anymore because. You now can connect so easily from here, and it is more expensive, but by the time you factor in the drive time and the parking your car and all that, it's pretty easy to justify pretty quickly, and it's so much more pleasant from here. And to your point, I mean, our we're hitting the numbers. I mean, the numbers are crazy.
Yeah.
And it seems like every flight that we get here ends up getting subscribed. So
Yeah. And the big one is on your return trip when you're coming home. You get off the plane and you're home. You're in St. George. You're already there. You're wherever you live. You're within 15 minutes of home, really, almost. So that's a big thing. So it really is worth it. And sometimes if you're getting the flights at the right time, there's not that much of a gap. Yeah. There's always going to be a little bit. I mean, we can't compete with an airport like Las Vegas, but the gap is a lot smaller.
Yeah,
a lot smaller.
Yep.
So
yeah, no, that's exciting stuff. And then I know we've got some exciting stuff going on downtown.
Yes,
very excited about that.
Yep. And of course we completed our new city hall. We did highlight that quite a bit, and we feel like we were very fiscally responsible on that building. I mean, there's always a little bit of naysaying when the government builds something new and it's for government purposes, but I think we took the taxpayers' money into consideration there, build a nice building that will serve the public
for a long time.
For a long time, and we did it, I think, at a price and at a value engineering that shows respect for the taxpayers' money, and part of that too is we want the employees to feel that they work in a world-class place, and that way you get world-class service. I mean, if you want world-class service, you want to have world-class employees, and they need a facility like that to be able to work in, to feel like that they work for a place that values their talent.
Yeah, and even as a resident of St. George, I want my city hall. I want my city hall to be a point of pride as well. That's a civic institution as well. So, and
we backed up a little bit and made a few little changes to the building when we wanted to make sure that it was the public's building. That's why we've got the civic space downstairs that can be used for civic activities. That's where the concept of the atrium came, that's open and to the public. And a lot of our events that we have, they'll be, the city hall will be connected to those events where you park in the parking garage, you can go through the atrium and right into town square. It's going to be super fun. It was during the Christmas period. You had a lot of people parking there at the parking garage, even in the evenings, walking through the atrium. We had the Christmas tree up. It was a great community gathering spot. So
it was a cool time for it to open. Because it really did. Added to the holiday
and it really
spirit.
I feel really blessed to be involved at this point in time, because it's kind of been really fun to be part of all that change and going to the new city hall and all the things that are happening, and it's been super fun.
So maybe with our last few minutes, as we're kind of a one trick pony over here. We're all about housing, so maybe just kind of talk about that for the last few minutes. That's always a hot topic in Southern Utah, and obviously for us as well. And maybe kind of as we pivot to that topic, I'll start by just really complimenting the city, especially for the recent adoption of your R1 ordinance. I think that's as good a small lot zoning reform as I've seen. And so I really want to tip my hat to you and the council and your staff for passing that through. So,
and we're excited about that. We are, and that, I think some of those ideas come out of campaigns. I mean, there was a lot of things in the campaigns, as painful as they are. A lot of people ask questions about housing and what you're going to do, and so there was a lot of ideas shared that I think gets people's minds to open up, and they start thinking a little differently about what are some of the things that we can do. So I think a lot of that was, part of campaigning and even visiting with folks like you guys at SUHBA and understanding the need and what you guys are seeing out there on the ground. So good stuff.
Yeah. Any other thoughts that you have about housing? How are you kind of seeing that these days, and kind of what you're seeing at the city side of things? It's
always a big challenge, and I feel like we've been very proactive at the city of St. George. I mean, there's been some mandates coming down from the state level, and generally we're far ahead of those. one of those being the ADU. And I know we've talked about this before, but the ADU, where we've softened those guidelines and made sure that it's easier for people to do that. We did away with the size restriction, which was causing some problems for those ADUs, and you know, the setbacks, which we're hoping people are taking advantage of. I've seen some that are built that have been fantastic that people have done. So hopefully that'll help some. You know, the housing issue, it's so hard because you can't, there's not a one little fix that we can do. And I maintain, and I think the city's trying to do this, is there's a whole bunch of things that we probably need to be doing. So we can't just close our eyes and say, there's one fix, we're done. We want to have a multitude of different housing options. By the same token, we don't want to go all to one. It's not all about just that one fix, but we're really excited about some of those things. Multifamily housing too is a big deal. We've approved a lot of multifamily housing that probably still hasn't been built that we're okay with. That doesn't mean there's not room still for some traditional housing. And I think it takes all kinds, and we're excited about that. You know, I heard someone say the other day, and this really hits it on the head with the housing issue, is we've done a really good job of making sure people understand what a good investment housing is. And if you want it to be a good investment, it's got to continue to increase in prices. And at the same time, we have a housing affordability issue. And so it's quite the dilemma that we have. But here's the other good thing, and not just because I'm here, I truly believe this. We a good relationship we have with our partners, our home builders, our developers, with SUHBA, so that we can work together on these issues, makes a big difference. And again, I'm not saying that just because we're here. I truly believe that if we work together and people, you know, collaborate and come together with these ideas, that we're gonna make some progress on that. And then at the end of the day, there's still kind of those free market principles, and that it's going to ebb and flow. It's hard for me to understand that it wasn't very long ago that I remember having a house that I couldn't give away. Yeah. It's just this weird dynamic that we're in now. And I don't know that's ever going to happen again in St. George. There's just too many people that want to be here. And I don't blame them. And so, you know, we're going to keep doing whatever we can on housing, just trying to stay out of the way as much as we can, trying to streamline our processes. And like you say, like we've done with our new zoning, making sure that there's options for everybody.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that. I think it takes multiple strategies. It's not just a single fix. And I really agree with the ADU stuff you guys have done as well. That's really forward thinking. The allowing 2 ADUs downtown. Is a big
that's
deal.
Another one.
I'm not sure if you got to Jordan Wall's parade home that he did downtown. That was a really cool demonstration project.
Yep.
And so I think you guys have really shown leadership on that front for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, we really want to be your partners on that stuff. And so hopefully you'll see us as a partner and a resource on
100%
housing policy stuff, and continue to work through it. We sure appreciate you and look forward to continue to work together on it.
No, it means a lot. Those partnerships, they mean a lot.
Thanks again for doing this.
No, thanks for having me,
Mayor, and we'll continue to work together on it.
Thanks.
And thanks to our audience for tuning in. And if you like the episode, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one.